Empowerment Show aims to equip individuals with the necessary tools, knowledge, and confidence to make informed decisions and take control of their lives. It also focuses on ensuring access to essential resources and the opportunities.
Hey everyone, it's your comrade Brother John, also known as Hard Truth. Today I want to shed some light on a critical issue that impacts our communities: mental health and substance abuse. Recent studies show that over 20% of adults in America experience mental illness, and a staggering 14% struggle with substance use disorders. This isn't just a number, it's affecting real lives and contributing to the rise in violence across the nation. We need to address these issues head on and support one another. Advocate for better resources in our community. Let's work together to make a difference. Peace.
It's pretty powerful. Good evening. How are you? Welcome to the Empowerment Show. My name is Kendall Stevenson, and of course, I am the host of the show. This evening, I have with me a young man. His name is Don Johnson. No, he's not that Don Johnson, but he's probably just as cool or cooler. My man Don Johnson he's a candidate for magistrate for a judge in the county of Stroudsburg, correct?
Yep, Stroudsburg Borough. Yep.
I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself. So let's try this one. You're running for magistrate judge. Why should someone vote for you? Let's start with that question. Make it hard first.
Well, I think somebody should vote for me because I'm the best qualified candidate in the race, and I'm committed to public service. I've been doing public service for quite a long time. I've been on the zoning hearing board in Stroudsburg, and I have a judicial experience there where we adjudicate cases, and people come before the board to challenge the ordinance or different kind of zoning issues. So I have that kind of experience. I've been a realtor for over 20 years, and I have dealt with a lot of landlord-tenant issues, which is a lot of what comes through the Stroudsburg Magisterial District Court, and I've done a lot of ethics training with my real estate coursework and continuing education. I've had a lot of experience with business law and education in school and doing contracts and so on. And I think more than anything, it comes down to your character and your judgment, the kind of fitness for office that you have, and really just making the commitment to give fair and impartial justice to everybody that comes before the court.
So is this something that you've always wanted to do?
Well, it's something that I started to consider about 14 years ago. The current judge is Christine Anzini, and she's been there for 18 years, and she's retiring now. And when we've been friends since we were young, and when I moved back to the Stroudsburg area, I lived in Easton for 12 years prior to coming back to Stroudsburg. And when I came back, I lived in Stroud Township, and she said the judgeship there is coming up in a year or two, and you should think about running for it. And it really got me thinking that I thought it was something that I'd be very well suited for and that I would enjoy doing. And then we ended up moving to the borough. And 6 years ago, when the judgeship was up for re-election, and 12 years ago, people had come to me and said, Don, why don't you run for judge? You'd do well at that job. I said, well, I know Judge Anzini. She's a great judge. She's a friend of mine, and I have no intention of running against her. But now it's an open seat, and I felt really something that I wanted to commit to.
Who's holding the seat right now? Just curious.
Yep, that's Christine Anzini. She's been there for 18 years. Yep.
18 years?
Yep. Yeah. So it's a 6-year term, and she's just finishing up her third term, her third term rather, and has decided to not run again. So now it's an open seat.
So you start out as a lawyer and then you become a judge. Is that what it is?
Well, in Pennsylvania, we're one of a handful of states. I think there's 5 or 6 of them where for the first court level, the magisterial district courts, you don't have to be an attorney or a member of the Bar Association to be that judge. And I think it was really set up that way quite a long time ago. You know, 250 years ago or more when they started doing this in Pennsylvania, that they really wanted people that were not necessarily in the legal profession, but part of the community, that understood the culture of the community and were well respected in the community, and good community members that could be used at this level to judge their peers in these cases. And it's, like I said, it's the first level of jurisdiction. So it's traffic court, landlord tenant issues, but it's also arrest warrants and setting bail and arraignments. And for serious crimes, first degree misdemeanors and felonies, they immediately get arraigned and bound over for the Court of Common Pleas, and that's the countywide court. We have 9 district judges in Monroe County, so they're spread out all over the county, and they cover different aspects of the work for each other. And in fact, they have overnight duty and weekend duty that they rotate in and out of. So for
You're cutting in and out, Don.
For example, somebody warrant executed at 4, they need a magistrate to do
How's
it.
your Wi-Fi over there? You're cutting in and out a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
Just missed a little thing that you just said. I'm not gonna make you repeat yourself.
All right. Well, I was just talking a little bit about the district judges and some of the things that they have to do and covering for each other. And like weekend duty, the state police can need an arrest warrant at 4 o'clock in the morning, and one of the magistrates have to fulfill that so justice can be done.
So, how much education do you actually need in order to do what you do? I mean, I understand that you don't necessarily have to be within the law or a lawyer or someone in that field, but you still would need to have some sort of education. So, what type of education do you have in order to do what you need to do?
Well, my understanding is that there are no educational requirements. Everything I've read through, and that would be something to do with the legislature if they have requirements that they would set on this. But I've never seen anything where there's any educational requirements. I can tell you my 2 opponents, they're not college graduates. I have a degree in international business, and so I have a bachelor's degree and studied business law and did a lot of coursework through college. I think personally that it's important to have a certain level of education, because it just goes to show that you can complete the coursework. And in fact, not to say that somebody that doesn't even have a high school diploma or a college degree can't be a magistrate, but they do have a very lengthy and in-depth training that is required and a certification. So for the whole month of June, I'll be in Harrisburg taking classes 5 days a week, and then there's certification tests that go along with it. And it's pretty difficult. And I've talked to some other judges and done some studying up on it. And I know that it's pretty intense, and a lot of people don't pass that coursework. And then I guess they can continue to take the test until they are qualified to be a judge. But it's not like you can just walk into the job without any qualifications.
Okay. So my next question is that, let's say you're on the job and a person comes in there, and you have to deal with a person that is, I don't know, like an addict. And did you know that they're physically, visibly, you can see that they're an addict. So how would you deal with that as trying to stay impartial?
Well, I would certainly use all the resources available to get this person help. So, how the law gets treated has to be fair and equal with everybody, no matter what their circumstances are. They might have, any kind of, impairments or addictions or any different kinds of issues. But you have to look past all of that and still deliver justice fairly. Now, what I can say in a situation like that is I would try to work with the district attorney's office, and they should be aware of this kind of a situation too. And I know that they've been doing a lot of work in Monroe County to help people that have addiction problems or mental health issues and different kinds of things, to get them to help so that it's not a revolving door, and that we're not going to slap them on the wrist or give them a fine that's not going to be paid, and then they're going to be back out on the street and back into the courtroom in a couple of weeks. So I know there's a lot of resources to help people that have addiction or whatever other issues that they might deal with. And that would be my primary concern, is say, hey, this guy's beyond his control a little bit, and he needs some help, So yeah, I mean, I'll treat everybody fairly, but I would try to look beyond it to the point to give people help, not to look at them to say, clearly this guy's a drug addict and I need to put him in jail. That's not my approach, at least.
Okay, so how about let's say if the guy's a Republican and you're a Democrat, you don't particularly care for Republicans. I mean, everybody has some sort of prejudices or some biases. Everyone has it. If you don't, you're not going to be human. So in order to get that, how do you control that?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, we all have bias, and it's built in. And as much as we want to try and pretend that it doesn't exist, it does. And it's from everything that's around us. Bias gets built up in different ways. As far as somebody's political persuasion, that doesn't bother me in the slightest. Look, I used to be a Republican. Now I'm a Democrat. I'm not especially fond of either party. They both have their pluses and their minuses, and like most people, I want to see the politicians work together to do the people's work, and clearly they've not been doing it for a long time. Now, look, if somebody's a radical Republican or a radical Democrat and they want to go out and make problems, I'm going to have just as much a problem with either one of them. It doesn't matter what letters behind their name. If they're breaking the law, that's how they're going to get treated.
Well, personally, I see you out in the community quite often. So what is it that you do when you go out to do any type of community work? And what kind of community work is it that you're doing, if you do any?
Well, I mean, what I mentioned before, that I'm on the zoning hearing board in Stroudsburg, so I help out with that. I try to get involved politically. I've been a registered Democrat for quite a while, and I've been doing a lot of work over the years to help good Democrats get elected to office. And I help our county committee, and I was on state committee as well, state Democratic committee. And I go to their meetings to be a part of the process and be a voting member for all of these things. As a judicial candidate, you cannot be political. So prior to announcing my candidacy, I withdrew from Pennsylvania Democratic Committee and the state and the local Democratic Committee. But prior to that, I had been maintaining the website for the Monroe County Democrats and doing a lot of digital advertising for them, doing their newsletter for them, and mainly just putting the information together that the committee gives me and organizing it in a way that makes it helpful and useful to the voters. And one thing I can tell you that I'm pretty proud of is that the Monroe County Democratic Committee website has gotten an awful lot of traffic built up over the last few years since I've been running it. And when we look into the traffic that gets to the website, when it comes up before the election, we have a candidate page and getting lots of traffic, people looking in because they want to find all their candidate information in one place. They want to find voting information, how to check their voter registration or their mail-in ballot status and so on. So that's what I've been trying to do to help the community and help overall.
Okay, we'll be back in 30 seconds, and we're going to learn a little bit more about Mr. Don Johnson, and we'll talk about his family. See you in 30 seconds. I'm going to tell you, Mr. Johnson, every time I see that commercial, it pisses me off.
Why's that?
I used to like to be a bodybuilder, and these kids, they're amazing. I mean, I don't mean it pisses me off. I want to look like that.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
Blew up the wings and the muscles, and oh my God. Okay, that was brought to you by the Wolfpack. Wolfpack is their sporting apparel. You can reach them at Wolfpack on YouTube or at on Facebook or Instagram. Most of the social media sites you can check out Wolfpack. Wolfpack is spelled the German way, so they use a PH instead of a LF. Okay, back to Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, I wanted to ask you about your family life. So, are you married? Do you have kids? What's the deal?
Yeah, I'm married. My wife Tara and I, we've been married for, let's see, it'll be 8 years this year, later this year. We've been together for 15 years. And Tara has a son, so I have a stepson, Hunter. And Hunter's a student at Stroudsburg High School. He's graduating this year and going off to college. And I have 4 adult kids that I raised up, and they're all doing well. And now I have a little granddaughter. She just turned 4 years old.
Okay.
And my one daughter lives here with us. She's 25, and she's getting married in a month from now. And my daughter lives in Brooklyn. My other daughter lives in Brooklyn, and my 2 sons live down in Montgomery County, a little bit south of here.
Are you originally from Pennsylvania?
I am. Yeah, I was born and raised in Stroudsburg, and lived here most of my life. I went away to California for college, and I was out there for 6 years. And then I spent a year in Colorado, and I spent a year studying in Germany on an exchange program from university. And so I got to travel around a bit. And then when I started a family, moved back to the area. And then I was working in New Jersey and New York. So I ended up to be closer to my family, but also be able to commute. I live down in Easton, about a half hour south of here. So that's where I lived for 12 years before I ended up moving back to Stroudsburg.
Is that also where you went to school?
No, I went to Stroudsburg High School was where I graduated. San Diego State University was where I went to college. So yeah, I spent 6 years in San Diego. Yep. And then after I finished college, moved to Easton, and then I worked in New Jersey and New York for telecom companies.
All right. What telecom? Tell me about that. What do you do there?
Well, I worked at Lucent Technologies.
Okay. Please.
Yeah, Lucent Technologies. So they were around for not very long, but it was right in the beginning of the internet wave. So it was like 95 when the internet was just starting to take off. And I was working in a little innovation group doing marketing and customer relations. And that was at Bell Labs in Murray Hill, New Jersey. So I was out there for 5 years. It was really interesting, and I learned an awful lot. And then I ended up working for a little software company in Midtown Manhattan. So I commuted in there for 5 years. And then after all that commuting for, I guess it was about 11 years, I was doing all that commuting. I decided to start selling new home construction. So I started that 20 years ago here in East Stroudsburg. So I was still living in Easton, but coming up to East Stroudsburg to sell new home construction in the early 2000s.
You guys still do that?
Well, I'm a realtor. I don't do new home construction sales anymore. But I do resales for residential homes, and that's my main thing. But I also do a lot of business technical consulting. So I build and maintain websites for different clients. I do digital advertising and that sort of thing. So I've liked having that transition where I can kind of be my own boss and pick my hours and pick my clients and, who I want to work with and who I don't want to work with.
Well, you read my manuscript? I understand that completely. But what I wanted to do was just let the people, the viewing audience, and especially around the Stroudsburg areas, the ones that plan on voting for you, I want to let them see you, let them know who are they voting for. So this is why I picked the line of questioning I did as far as your past and your background and whatnot. Is that cool?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, there's always a connection. Stroudsburg is still a small town. Our area has grown a lot, but the borough itself, it's never really had a whole lot of room for expansion, for more building. And, some people move out and move in, but still for the most part, especially out campaigning a lot, I realized just what a small town it is. and people know who you are. So my mom and dad, they had the beauty school on 8th Street in Stroudsburg here. They sold it 20 years ago, and the buyer moved it up to the mall. But anybody who's been here for 20 years or more, if they know a hairdresser anywhere in the Poconos, then they probably know my mom and dad, or at least have some kind of a connection. And, my mom's done all kinds of volunteer work in the area for a long, long time. And my dad was involved with a lot of different organizations doing community service over the years. And, so that's a nice thing to be able to have those kinds of deep roots in a community and those kinds of connections.
Well, I think that's great if you got deep roots, because now you're not going to be so, I don't know. Stroudsburg is very diverse to me. So I'm glad that you grew up within that area. I mean, to be realistic, a lot of people, they may say, but in this country, a lot of us don't really intermingle. I mean, you have communities that have never seen a Black person up close.
Yeah.
So you grew up in Stroudsburg. Like I said, that's kind of like a melting pot. Since I've been here, I've seen all different walks of life of people there, and I think for me, it's a great thing, because I don't want to live in an all Black world. I don't want to live in an all white world. That's why I'm glad we live in America. I'm just hoping that that we can maintain it at least. Wasn't that what he said? You can have a republic if you can maintain it or keep it. It was something. Yeah. So how do you feel about the politics of the day, or should I leave that alone?
Well, again, as a judicial candidate, I'm, not supposed to be so political.
I understand 100% completely, but I'm not a candidate. So I just think a lot of things that are going on today, especially when we talk politics, especially the things that Trump is doing. I mean, you want to be a judge, but this man, he's illegal. He's a criminal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to the Empowerment Show. How may I help you? Okay, they call in, but they have nothing to say. Okay. Well, thank you for whoever you are. Thank you for calling in, and hopefully you'll call back. All right. I'm just saying, with the vibe of today and the things that this man is doing and the things that he has done, I don't understand how we can have a criminal as a president. You don't have to answer that. Just personally, if you're a criminal, you're supposed to be behind bars. Now, you got a guy come in, he didn't pay his rent. You got another guy, he comes in, he's the tenant, he's pissed off because he owns the building, and this guy didn't pay his rent. So that's a whole nother different type of situation. How do you deal with that? I'm going to bring you back to the magistrate.
Yeah, well, these cases are pretty clear cut. Like I mentioned before, I've been a realtor for a long time, and I had some rental properties from time to time over the years, and I've written a lot of leases, and I know the standard leases that we use, and I can read them frontwards and backwards. You go by the letter of the lease, and there's a simple obligation, and of course you have some leeway. And if a tenant is in some kind of a hardship and they're making their payment or attempting to make their payment, and they've been a good tenant for a long time, then you can give them some leniency. I've heard of cases where landlords, they want to evict a tenant or somehow get rid of a tenant so that they can paint the place and raise the rent a whole bunch. And the tenant runs into a little bit of hardship, something happens, and they're 5 days late on the rent. They don't want to accept the rent. Well, the letter of the law says you have to accept the rent. And but again, on the other hand, if someone is continually making problems as a tenant and always paying late, then they have to have consequences at some point. And one of the things is with working with the other magistrates is that they all get to meet together and they can all interact and communicate with each other. So you can recess a case and you can call up one of the other judges and say, hey, this is what's going on. It's a little bit new to me. How would you handle this situation? And of course, with all the training, you get some a lot better understanding on how you can use leeway. But this is really what it comes down to, is in these kinds of situations, being able to use your best judgment and be fair and consistent, so that you can give some people some leeway and consideration, but also uphold the law and make sure that you're being fair to both sides, right?
Now you have to have some consistency as
Mm-hmm.
to what you do. You can't treat one side better than the other, or you can't give privileges to one. As an African American, we've seen all types of things happen within a courtroom that maybe shouldn't have happened. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm really glad that you're running, because I
Thank
think
you.
I think someone like you is needed. If not you, then someone like you that at least have the same principles as you do. So I want to ask this question: Who's the boss in the family?
Who's the boss? Well, let me see. Well, we run a pretty good democracy in our house, but I mean, I probably don't have to tell you, Kendall. It's like, I'm a pretty easygoing guy. You know me a little bit, and I feel like for the most part, most guys are, and they're easy. Like, you want the kitchen painted this this color or that color. That's fine with me. It doesn't bother me. But if something's important to me, then yeah, Tara, she'll recognize that and give me some leeway there. So we work real well together that way. I can say, and I'm not just saying it, you know, it's true.
Hey, look, I've been with my wife for 30 years, bro. I know how you feel. And she mean I always say she's my companion, this, that, and the other. But believe it or not, when she points the finger and say move this, it gets moved.
Yeah. Well, you probably think like I do. I don't want to disappoint my wife, and if I know and she'll be nice about it. Hey, did you remember to do that? And it slipped my mind, and I'm like, I'm right on it right now.
Nah, my wife is she's the boss. She likes being the boss, but it's all good. It's all good. It works out well for us.
Yeah.
So again, I like to let the community know that Mr. Don Johnson. Again, I have no preferences as to who gets in that office. The only person that I hope they get in that office is someone that's either you or someone like you that has the characteristics that you do. I appreciate you coming on my show. Please tell Ms. Tara that I said hello. So we're gonna cut this short. I only do it for 30 minutes. Wanted to get an opportunity to get everything out. But if somebody needed to reach you, where would they?
Well, you can go to my website, donjohnsonforjudge.com. And even if you do just some kind of a simple Google search, you should be able to find me. But you'll get to my Facebook page there, and it's same thing, Don Johnson for Judge on Facebook, and you can find lots of information. I can tell you on the website, I've got a lot of good information. And I'd like to point out, a lot of people aren't too aware of what the district court does, what magistrates do. I have a really good page on there that explains everything that judges do and the kind of responsibilities that they have, and what goes on, and also why it's so important. Because if anybody ever has any interaction with the court, most of the time it's going to be with the magisterial district court. So people should have an understanding of how they work and how that operates. So there's a lot of good information, a lot of background on me. You can learn a lot more about me, my family, my background, and education experience, all of that good stuff.
Tell you what, we got about another 30 seconds. We got about another minute. So I'm gonna let you take 30 seconds, and I want to let you do it again. Tell me why I should vote for you for judge.
Well, you should vote for me for judge because I'm committed to public service. I've been involved in public service for quite a long time. This is something that I've been thinking about doing for a long time. And now that it's an open seat, I'm taking the opportunity to run for magisterial district judge in Stroudsburg. And I have the background and the experience, the qualifications, and more than anything, the character and the fitness and the temperament to be a good judge and deliver fair and equal justice, and give dignity to everybody that walks into the court, ensure that every voice is heard, and that everybody gets treated with respect and fairness, and that I always maintain the integrity and the impartiality of the courts. So thank you so much, Kendall, for having me on. I really appreciate it. And it's great to spend some time.
We're going to spread the word. We're going to spread the word. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make sure it gets out to everyone. Again, people for tuning. Thank you guys for tuning in to Genesis Radio. I just said Genesis Radio. I haven't been in a minute. But thank you guys for tuning in to the Empowerment Show. I guess they must have been on my mind. And again, if you do tune into Genesis Radio, check out my man, Ronald Yates. I got tongue-tied there for a minute. And he's on Thursdays. He comes on from 6 to 7, and his show is For Reasons. He has a very good show. And right after that, I believe on Tuesdays, you have the amazing Amy, and she comes on. And then on Saturdays, Mr. TP with the TP Square Show. All right, giving a shout-out to Genesis Radio, and thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Johnson, thank you again for the opportunity and coming in. As always, I have a young lady. She says, be yourself, because everybody else is taken. Kendall Stevenson, peace. We're out.
Peace.